Today's session, California Plumbing Codes and Certifications Safety Essentials, explores the critical role of codes, standards, and third-party certification in the plumbing and mechanical industry. We'll discuss why these elements are essential for safety, quality, and compliance, and highlight the latest updates to the 2025 California Plumbing Code. Our presenter is Ignacio Iggy Contreras, IAPMO Western U.S. Field Services Manager. With over 20 years of industry experience, Iggy began his career as a site superintendent with ACO and has trained apprentices and journeymen as an instructor with A&J Training Trust. He now travels across California, sharing his expertise and providing code training to plumbing professionals. In this session, you'll learn how codes ensure safety and quality, the role of the authority having jurisdiction, AHJ, the importance of third-party certification, how professionals can influence code development, common myths about code violations, and the latest update to the 2025 California Plumbing Code. If you have questions or want to learn more, reach out to Osborne Company or IAPMO. Now, let's get started.
Well, first off, good morning, everybody. And then I want to thank Steve McCone, Osborne Company, for putting this together and having me to deliver these code updates. It's truly a pleasure. And then for those of you that I haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Iggy Contreras. I'm currently in my third year with IAPMO, the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials. I serve as one of 8 field managers, and I cover the Western states and also include Mexico. In addition, I recently stepped into a new role as North American Program Director for IWISH. That's the International Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene Foundation, which is a charitable of IAPMO, and it's dedicated to improving access to clean water, safe sanitation in historical, undeserved, low-income, and also indigenous communities. A little more background on myself. So prior to joining IAPMO, I spent 26 years in the plumbing and mechanical industry as a field tradesman. I hold the plumber certification and my pipe fit certification through NITC. I also had the honor of teaching at the Apprentice and Journeyman Training Center in Los Angeles, where I led various topics, such as plumbing code, mechanical gas, backflow, and then a bunch of other safety related topics as well. And with that, I'm going to dive into today's presentation. The first thing I'm going to pop up is QR code, the 2025 California Plumbing Code Book. This is the view only, but go ahead and scan that code. And then just to talk about what I just want to mention what IAPMO does. So we write the model code, which jurisdictions adopt and make amendments, and then they create their own. So for instance, the 2024 UPC, Uniform Plumbing Code, California adopts that, the Building Standard Commission, they adopt it, they make their changes or amendments, and then it creates the 2025 Plumbing Code. And then there are some jurisdictions within California, some of the bigger jurisdictions, they'll take the 2025, make their amendments, and then create the next cycle for themselves. So for instance, Los Angeles, they'll take this 2025 California Plumbing Code, they'll make their amendments, and then they'll create the 2026 Los Angeles Plumbing Code. Aside from that, the other thing that we're known for is our third-party certification for materials. So anytime you see the UPC with the shield, that means it's gone through our R&T lab, our research and testing lab. So it's been certified through our lab. Okay, so now getting into the presentation, when you see these symbols or underlines throughout the slides, just know that this is what they mean. Okay, so If a text is underlined, just like this first bullet point, then that means it's a added code text. That's how it's going to look. It's going to be underlined just like that. If a text has been removed from the code, then you'll see it struck out, just like the out is in this right here. And then where there has been a change to the California code, this marker is going to appear up on the right corner. That's that chevron sign symbol. You're going to see that. And then where there has been a change to the model code, the UPC, this star will appear on the upper right corner. And then, of course, sometimes you'll see both the chevron and the star. Then that just means that it changed both on the model code and the California code. So the first one, the first set of change is gonna applies to Chapter 1, Administration. Chapter 1 explains how the plumbing code should be applied, enforced, and managed. It defines the code's purpose to protect safety, property, and public welfare. For the code to work, it must properly be enforced by the authority having jurisdiction. They check the plumbing work to make sure that it follows the rules and does it so fairly. The designer is responsible for creating a safe system, and the contractor must install it according to the plans. Chapter 1, the first thing that to mention that just came in is OSHPD 6. The specific code of application of the agency is responsible for enforcement agency, and specified authority to adopt and enforce such as provisions of this code otherwise stated. Okay, so OSHPD 6, the action is for chemical dependency recovery hospital, not within an acute care hospital building or an acute psychiatric facility. The enforcing agency is the local building department. And then section 110.6.1, applicable administrative standards, applies to the Title 24, Part 1 of the California Code Regulations, Chapter 7. Number 2, Title 24, Part 2, California Code Regulations, and then Section 110 and 110 of Chapter 1, Division 1, and as indicated in the adoption matrix for Chapter 1 and Division 2. So the enforcement scope for Chapter 6, again, applies specifically to chemical dependency recovery hospitals that are not located in acute care hospitals or psychiatric facilities. Certain standards apply to Chapter 6, which include parts of the California Building Code, Title 24, Parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, and 10, also 11. Title 24, Part 2, as updated by OSHPD, must be followed for the building types listed in Section 110.6. These rules are based on California Health and Safety Code sections 1275, 18929, and 19850, with additional references from sections 1250.3 and 129675 through 130070. In the building code, these rules are marked under OSHPD 6 in the adoption table matrix. And that was the big change to Chapter 1. Now getting into Chapter 2. Chapter 2 covers definitions. One was the anode lift. So this is an assembly of steel case plastic pipe used to make the transition between plastic piping installed underground and metallic piping installed above ground. So the Uniform Plumbing Code does not currently have the definition for an anodyless riser. There has been some confusion in the trade that a compression PE adapter to a stainless steel riser is comparable to an anodyless riser. The definition will eliminate the misconception and also correlate with the existing uniform mechanical definition. Okay, so one thing I do want to mention though that I've picked up on the field is when this is when plumbers buy these risers, some risers come without the anode, and the box might say less anode. meaning you still got to buy that separately. Okay, so I just want to state that because there's I've seen some confusion there as well. That anodeless riser is not the same thing as a box that says less anode. Just thought that that was worth mentioning. The next definition would pertain to appliance, and this is a device that utilizes fuel or electricity as an energy source to produce light, heat, power, refrigeration, or air conditioning. This definition also includes vented decorative appliances and electric storage or tankless water heaters. So the previous code language under appliance um, said a device that utilizes an energy source to produce light, heat, power, refrigeration, and okay, so the next one's going to be a hand washing fixture, and this pertains to Oshpods of one, two, three, four, five, and then now six as well. So under faucets and trims, subsection C, there was an added text to that, and it reads, faucets shall not be equipped with an aerator, but may be equipped with a non-aerating laminar flow device. The flow rate for hand washing fixtures shall not be less than gallons per minute. So California has added a flow rate guideline to the definition. The new language under subsection C gives a limit to 1 GPM. And again, that covers OSHPODs 1 through 6 completely. And then a scrub sink, which is covered under OSHPOD 1 through 5. A sink used to wash and scrub the hands and arms during the septic preparation for surgery and equipment with the supply spout as required for hand washing fixtures. The scrub sink shall be trimmed with foot, knee, or electronic sensor controls that do not involve contact with the upper extremities. Sensors operated fixtures shall be capable of functioning during loss of normal power. Single lever wrist blades shall not be permitted shall not be permitted except for the temperature preset valve. So the OSHPA definition of a scrub sink has been changed to ensure function of this fixture can be controlled without using hands or arms for patient and employee safety. And then next one is going to be water heater dual purpose, an appliance intended to be a heat source for both space heating and domestic hot water applications. So the UPC added this definition to identify these types of appliances. These are popular systems due to the reduced cost and maintenance requirements. And then last definition that I want to mention is a water station, a designated location intended to provide access to drinking water through a device or appliance. So the UPC added this definition to better identify the space served by drinking fountains or similar fixtures. We see these bottle filling stations a lot more and more now. They help with the spread of germs. Chapter 3 covers general regulations. A couple things that I wanted to share. Okay, and the first one's going to be female plastic connectors. Okay, so female plastic tapered NPT threaded connectors shall not be allowed to be used when threaded onto a male metallic connector. Now there's an exception. Female plastic parallel threaded connectors shall be permitted, also known as straight. I just want to explain what they're talking about here. So we know that when you have a metal adapter, a pipe or an adapter screwing into a plastic female, the metal is a lot more rigid, and then when it expands, it will crack a plastic female connector. Okay. So therefore you can't the code says that we cannot screw in a metal adapter into a plastic female. So yeah, metal male adapter to a female, plastic female. Unless the exception unless it's parallel straight. And what they're talking about is when it's for pressure piping, the end of this thread is going to be tapered down, right? That's what's going to create the seal from the water. That's going to be on a pressure system. Okay, so now when you have like a condensate pan or anything of that sort, the inside diameter of this thread is going to be straight all the way towards the back, all the way through. So that's what we're talking about, a parallel straight threaded connector. Okay, but that's going to be, like I said, it's only going to be usually in like in a drain, so it won't be pressurized. So then you don't have the risk of the male adapter expanding and then creating and then cracking the plastic female adapter. The next one I want to mention is the ABS to PVC transition joints. So except as provided in section 705.9.4, PVC and ABS pipe and fittings shall not be solvent welded to dissimilar materials. So the current language under section 705.9.4 allow for a single transition joint from ABS to PVC or PVC to ABS on the exterior of the structure to the transition between the building sewer and the building drain. Okay, so we know that the split between the building sewer and the building drain is going to be 2 feet out from underneath the structure. Okay, so however, transition glue should not be allowed to make a transition joints between ABS to PVC anywhere inside the building. This is an improper use of the product. Okay, so you can only use transition joint just the one time, but it's got to be exterior of the building, not interior. I'm going to move along to chapter 4, fixtures and fixture fittings. First one to mention is test for shower receptors. Shower receptors shall be tested with the water tightness by filling with water to a depth of no less than 2 inches. Barriers shall be temporarily constructed for testing. So if you have a walk-in shower where you don't have a curb, that means you need to temporarily construct a curb just so you can get that 2 inch water level above the drain. Um, and then the test plug shall be so placed that both upper and undersides of the subpan shall be subjected to the test at the point where it is clamped to the drain. So the add adds a minimum depth and requirement for testing the shower receptors. So the minimum time is also 15 minutes. So 2 inches for 15 minutes. Next one is pretty lengthy. It's the fixture calculations, and this pertains to dives into the all gender restrooms. So the code reads: the minimum number of fixtures shall be calculated at 50% male and 50% female based on the total occupant load. That's always been there. So the new language, in addition, reads for toilet facilities designed for use by all genders, the minimum number of fixtures shall be the aggregate calculated at 50% female and 50% male in accordance with Table 4221, where all gender fixtures are provided in addition men and women facilities, those all gender fixtures shall be included in determining the number of fixtures provided in an occupancy. So what we're saying here is, say you have 3 separate facilities. One's going to be designated for male, and then another facility is going to be designated for female, and then you got a third facility that's designated for all genders. You still got to go back to this table 4221, to explain what fixtures need to be provided. There may be a difference there, especially on the lavatories. So it's really important to stick to the table 4221. You still need to maintain the 50%. across the board. And then there's another section to this. The code continues. California, the Building Standard Commission, and the DSA also added this text substitution of a water closet for each urinal shall be permitted provided the total number of fixtures installed complies with the table 4221. So here in California, what we're saying is just to make it a lot easier, you can pull out those urinals and install water closets. Of course, knowing that we live in a drought state, is this sufficient? That's going to be up to us to decide whether that's something we want to do, if it's feasible. We know that water closets flush a lot more water than urinals, but the language is in there just to make it a lot easier for designers. Okay, so now moving along, we're still under 422. Okay, so we're still under the fixture. So use was added to this for family assisted use toilet and bathing facilities, or single use family or assisted use toilet and bathing rooms are required in applicable building regulations, and facilities shall be installed in accordance with those regulations. And then added text says, fixtures located in a single-use family or assisted use and bathing room facilities shall contribute to the total number of required fixtures in accordance with section 4221. So table 4221 has been changed to adopt this language. The next two code sections following this remain unchanged. Section 42213, which covers the Division of State Architects, DSA, access compliance, and the section 422114, which covers OSHPD 1 through 5. Separate toilet facilities shall be provided for each sex. Exceptions, we've known this, residential installations and the occupancies with a total occupant load of 10 or less. Number 3, in businesses or mercantile occupancies with a total occupancy load of 50 or less. And then the new subsection added 4 was separate facilities shall not be required where rooms have fixtures designed for use by both sexes and the water closets are installed in privacy compartments. Urinals should be located in privacy compartments. Okay, the Building Standard Commission and the Division of Architects state as defined, or separate private areas, and be visually separate from the remainder of the room. Water closets and urinals compartments shall comply with section 4226 and 4227 respectively. So the language has been to clarify where separate facilities would be required. The Building Standards Commission and the Division of State Architect Structural Safety have made an amendment to this language. And then we're going to cover what 4226 and 4227 cover here in just a couple of slides. But first, this next code section stricken out was toilets, so now single-use facilities. And then the change, there's an addition of bathing facilities, so it now reads single-use toilet facilities, bathing facilities, and family or assisted use toilet facilities shall be identified with signage indicating use for either sex. 42231. Separate toilet facilities shall be provided for those use of patients, staffs, personnel, and visitors. Okay, and now this covers OSHPD 1 through 6. So there's an exception, number 1, for primary care clinics that was added, where facilities contain no more than 3 examinations and or treatment rooms, the patient toilet shall be permitted to serve waiting areas. Okay, now subsection 2 was added for public waiting areas with an occupant load of 10 or less. One toilet facility designed for the use by no more than one person at a time shall be permitted to be used by both sexes. So the previous language read under subsection 1, exception for primary care clinics only. Okay, and then again, number 2 was added, basically saying in small public waiting areas that are few, only one restroom is required. This restroom can be a single user facility, meaning it's made for one person at a time, and it can be used by anyone, regardless of gender. This helps keep things simple, and it saves space in smaller buildings. Quickly going to talk about the enclosure themselves, the compartments. So for water closet compartments, uh, this is on in the UPC. Public water closets should occupy a separate compartment with walls or partitions and a door enclosing the fixtures to ensure privacy. Partitions for water closets located in separate gender toilet or bathing rooms shall comply with the Type B security requirements of IAPMO's Z12410 standard. Partitions for water closets located in all gender toilet rooms or partitions shall comply with the Type A security requirements of IAPMO's Z12410. Okay, so it's a little bit more stricter. Basically, it's about the maximum heights to the bottom and to the top of the compartments. Okay, so now there's an exception. Water closet compartments shall not be required in single occupant toilet rooms having a lockable door. And then number 2, toilet rooms in daycare facilities having more than one water closets shall be permitted to have one water closet without an enclosing compartment. So the UPC added this code language to define privacy and security requirements for urinal spaces. And then it continues on. Subsection 3, the BSC and the DSA state Type A security requirements of IAPMO's Z12410 in all gender toilet rooms or bathing rooms shall not be allowed. Compartments for water closets located in all gender multi-user bathroom rooms shall be privacy compartments as defined. Each compartment door shall be lockable from the inside of the compartment with a door locking device that is readily distinguishable as locked from the outside of the compartment. Privacy compartments or floor to ceiling may be permitted by the enforcing agency. Okay, so the enforcing agency is gonna permit that, and then it does state though that when a user is in the compartment, when he locks the door, that same lock on the it's going to indicate on the outside of the door that it's being used. Okay, so nobody tries to come in while there's somebody in there. And then for urinal partitions under the UPC, it reads each urinal should be separate with walls or partitions to provide privacy. The horizontal dimension between walls or partitions at each urinal should comply with section 4025. Partitions for urinals should comply with Type C security requirements of IAPMO Z12410. Walls or partitions shall extend from not less than 12 inches above the finished floor. So 12 inches from the floor to the bottom of the partition, and not less than 60 inches above the finished floor. So the top of the partition should not be less than 60 inches or higher. Okay, walls should extend outwards from the wall surface not less than 18 inches. So from the wall all the way past the user 18 inches. Okay, so urinals located in all gender toilet rooms shall be visually separate from the remainder of the room, or each urinal shall be installed in a privacy compartment complying with the Type A security requirements of IAPMO Z12410. And then there's an exception. Number 1, Urinal partitions shall not be required in a single occupant or family assisted use. Toilet room with a lockable door. So the UPC again added this language to define privacy and security requirements for urinal spaces. And then it continues on. Under California, added this type A security requirements of IAPMO Z124.10. In all gender toilet rooms shall not be allowed. Urinals in all gender toilet rooms not located in separate private areas shall be privacy compartments as defined. Each compartment door should be lockable from the inside of the compartment with the door locking device that is readily distinguishable as locked from the outside of the compartment. Privacy compartments and doors which are not full height or floor to ceiling may be permitted by the enforcement agency. Okay, so same thing as the water closets, the lock, it has to indicate on the outside that it's locked and somebody's inside using it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to chapter 5. We still got a little bit to cover. Chapter 5 covers water heaters. First one to mention is pressure limiting devices. A water heater installation shall be provided with overpressure protection using an approved listed device installed in accordance with the terms of its listings and the manufacturer's installation instructions. And then new added text, pressure relief devices shall have a pressure setting greater than the water surface pressure and not exceed 150 psi as required in section 6084. So the UPC added code language to reinforce the maximum pressure requirements for pressure limiting devices. Section 608.4 pressure relief valve says that each pressure relief valve shall be an approved automatic type with drain, and each such relief valve shall be set at a pressure of not more than 150 psi. No shutoff valve shall be installed between the relief valve and the system. Okay, so there should be nothing blocking after the relief. So no plugs, no valves, needs to be free. Okay, so and then drainage pan, where a water heater is located in attic, in or an attic ceiling assembly, floor ceiling assembly, floor subfloor assembly, or where damage results from a leaking water heater, a watertight pan of corrosion-resistant material shall be installed beneath the water heater in accordance with the following. And then number one, the drainage pan shall be provided with not less than 3/4 of an inch diameter drain to an approved location. The terminating end of the drain pipe should be readily visible. So you want to stick that terminating end in a location where the end users are going to see it. Okay, that's your alert that the water heater is leaking. You don't want to tie it into definitely don't want to tie it into a direct system. That's a cross connection. You don't want to stick it in a planter where nobody's going to see it. You definitely want to alert the property owner or user that there's a problem with your water heater. And then number two, the drainage pan shall be not less than 1.5 inches in depth. The connection should not be less than 3/4. And of course, if it's 1 inch, you want to run that out full size, but should not be less than 3/4. Where a drainage pan pipe is installed, the material of the piping shall be rated for the temperature rating of the water heater and shall be approved for the use with the liquids being discharged. Number four, discharge from a relief valve into the drainage pan shall be prohibited. So provisions are added which clarify the piping used on the water heater application shall be rated for such temperatures as the water heater is rated. The intent of this section is to prevent damage from occurring in the surrounding vicinity of the water heater should a leak. Additionally, training and This modification also adds the same provision of not allowing discharge in the relief valve into the water heater pan that is in section 608.5 subsection 7. It is a common mistake and needs to be stated in both sections. And then this is another big one that came in, and this pertains to installations in residential garages. Okay, so appliances in residential garages and adjacent spaces that open to the garage and are not part of the living space of a dwelling unit shall be installed so that the heating elements, switches, burners, and burner ignition devices are located of not less than 18 inches above the floor. And there's an exception listed: flammable, vapor ignition resistant appliances. Okay, so elements and switches, such as thermostats for electric water heaters, can be just as dangerous as burners and burner ignition devices. No matter if we're talking about a gas water heater or an electric water heater, it does need to be elevated to a stand of not less than 8 inches. Also added for accessibility for service. This is a shortened up version of the longer paragraph, but it's basically, it states, per the latest UPC, no clearances for a water heater are specified. A minimum of 30-inch depth, 30-inch high, 30-inch wide of clearance shall be provided. Aside from that, there must be enough space to remove and replace. The minimum clearances has been added. Previous code read, sufficient clearances shall be maintained to permit cleaning and maintenance. Okay, so now they actually added, gave it some numbers there. And with that, I'm going to exit chapter 5 and come into chapter 6. Chapter 6 covers water supply and distribution, backflow devices for carbonated beverage dispensers. These are devices, not assemblies, so these are not testable. Okay, so potable water supply through carbonated beverage dispensers shall be protected by an air gap or a vented backflow preventer that complies with ASSE 1022. For carbonated beverage dispensers, piping materials installed downstream of the backflow preventer shall not be affected by carbon dioxide gas. So non-carbonated beverage dispensers, such as ice makers and coffee machines, shall be protected by an air gap or a dual check backflow preventer that complies with ASSE 1032 or ASSE 1024. So in soda machines, carbon dioxide is used to carbonate drinks. When the CO mixes with water, it creates carbonic acid, which is corrosive. If not properly protected, this acidic mixture can flow backwards into the potable drinking water system, contaminating it. So the ASSE 1022 standard calls for this valve to be stainless steel. Okay, so you see this stainless steel device right here? It would have an opening right here. That it would spit out if you're having a backflow occurrence. Okay, and then down at the bottom, the new added text allows backflow preventers that do not have atmospheric vent, like an ASSC 1032 or 1024, to be used on beverage dispensers that do not involve carbonation. Okay, so these are desirable since they don't require a drain to catch any drips or discharges like the 1022 has. And then the next one talks about manifolds. Manifolds are utilized in water distribution systems. The addition of a section for manifolds will provide guidance to the end user and ensure that all components of field installed manifolds conform to the applicable material standards for water distribution. Furthermore, IAPMO's IGC 109 is being added as the standard covers water distribution manifolds for residential and commercial hot and cold water distribution systems and specifies requirements for materials, physical characteristics, performance testing, and markings. Okay, so the next one, expansion tanks.
So they wanted to ask, they asked where the backflow venting should go. Can it just does it need to go pipe to a drain, or can it
Yeah,
just spill?
right. So you know what, as an installer, I've had inspectors had me had they sorry, I've had them make me run that pipe all the way to a drain, a floor sink with an air gap. The problem that I have with that, and the argument that I'll argue, is it doesn't tell the user that it's backflow is occurring. So, I mean, I would. It's really up to the AHJ. Um, I would rather see that it spills out. And I understand, in some areas it might make some damage right to the millwork. So I understand in that application. So you really got to consider the application. Um, but definitely you want to alert the user that backflow is occurring. If the check valve is spitting out, something needs to be fixed. Does that answer the question or kind of give
I believe
guidance?
so, right? But it's sort of a case by case, and
Case by case, exactly.
yeah,
If you got stainless in a kitchen, a commercial kitchen with stainless steel sinks, obviously water's not going to damage those. That's meant for that. But if you got some millwork that's going to cause some damage, you might want to run that out to drain. But you know, you also want to warn somebody that's there and that's there for a reason.
right.
Okay, so now expansion tanks. The first section remained. We know that we got to install them when we have a check valve or a backflow preventer, because what that does is it creates a closed loop system. But there was an exception that was added. An expansion tank should not be required for instantaneous non-storage water heaters. Okay, so not to confuse the instantaneous to a tankless water heater. These are two different things. So a tankless water heater does have a small storage capacity, and that's why we do install expansion tanks on those. Okay, and instantaneous, we're talking about a point of use. Those little Insta-Hots that go underneath like a sink that only supplies that one faucet, just a point of use. That's the instantaneous one that we're talking about. Those don't store water. So for those water heaters, obviously we won't have the expansion tank. So that text was added, so it doesn't confuse the two, from the instantaneous to a tankless water heater. And then this next one for hot water circulating pumps for healthcare facilities, long-term care facilities, hotels or motels, devices that automatically turn off the circulating pump shall not be required. Okay, so hotels and healthcares are most prolific to Legionella by stopping circulation of water with a timer or an aquastat. You may be introducing the risk to the system. So this allows engineers and installers to use most effective methods to maintain hot water efficiently and protect illness. Okay, so this new text allows you to pull out those aquastats or timers to recirculating lines so that the water doesn't become stagnant and then create some waterborne pathogens. Domestic hot water distribution system for healthcare facilities and clinics, OSHPODs 1 through 5. So at least 2 pieces of water heating equipment shall be provided to supply hot water for dishwashing and minimal patient services such as hand washing and bathing. The arrangement of water heating equipment shall be based on the capacity and capability of the equipment to provide the required hot water during periods of breakdown or maintenance of any one water heater. Booster heaters for 125 degree Fahrenheit to 180 degree Fahrenheit. Water are acceptable as a second piece of equipment for dishwashing, where storage tanks are separate from the water heater. At least two independent storage tanks shall be provided. Storage water heaters and water heater storage tanks shall be maintained at 140 degree Fahrenheit or above. So OSHPD added the minimum temperature of requirement of 140 degree to hot water storage tanks and storage type water heaters. Obviously, this is just to help kill bacteria growth. Hot water distribution system serving patient care areas shall be under constant mechanical recirculation to provide continuous hot water at each hot water outlet. Hot water recirculating piping shall return the recirculating loop back through hot water source. Non-recirculating fixture branch piping shall not exceed 10 feet meters in length. So dead end piping, which is like risers with no flow branches with no fixture, shall not be installed. In renovation projects, dead end piping shall be removed in the area of renovation. Empty risers, mains, and branches installed for future use shall be permitted. So OSHPD has reduced the allowed non-recirculated branch piping of fixtures from what used to be 25 feet, now 10 feet, which will reduce the amount of time to get hot water to the outlet, which results in reduced health risks, energy conservation, and also water conservation. You won't need to dump out that stagnant cold water in order to pull the hot water to the fixture. Hot water distribution shall include test ports and valve openings for flushing of portions of the systems in accordance with the facility's water management program as defined in Appendix M. OSHPD now requires test ports for flushing points to satisfy the needs of the facility's water management program based off Appendix M. Drainage, this footnote change, foot number 4, previous code cycles from 2018 and before only allowed for 3 water closets on a 3-inch line. The 2021 code cycle bumped that up to 5 water closets, and then the new code cycle added one more toilet to that. So now we're allowed 6 water closets to a 3-inch line, and this has to do with the low efficiency fixtures and relation to pipe scouring. So we're allowing more water closets now to that smaller diameter piping. This is an important one that I want to cover. And this has to do with the combination waste and vent systems. There's that first sentence reads, branch serving traps shall connect to the main line at an angle not exceeding 2%. Each waste pipe, and each trap in such a system shall not be less than 2 pipe sizes exceeding the fixtures required in Chapter 7 of this code, and not less than 2 pipe sizes exceeding a fixture tailpiece or connection. So before there was some confusion on adding 45s to a combination waste and vent trap arm. So we know this code. We know that we cannot exceed 2 feet on the tailpiece. If it's any longer than 2 feet, it doesn't matter the diameter of the pipe either. It could be 1.5 inches, it could be 4 inch. It doesn't matter. The maximum allowable tailpiece length is 24 inches. If it was any longer, water will build velocity and just siphon right out of the trap. So we need to maintain that for any reason. We need to maintain that. Okay, so combination waste and vent systems, we know those are come into play in areas where you don't have any walls in the building structure, kind of like a grocery store. So where you can't vent conventionally, combination waste and vent systems come in to help. Okay, so this pipe size is going to be increased by 2 pipe dimensions, and that allows you to offset the trap arm. In no case can this be smaller than 3-inch, but it allows you to add the 45s so that you can maintain that 2-foot tailpiece. These work well underground where you have grade beams. You have to run the trap arms underneath grade beams. If you were to run that with just a normal grade, you might end up at the fixture with your tailpiece being longer. So adding those 45s allows you to bump up. Okay, so now the code section tells you that you need to come in at 2%, means horizontal. So what you can't do is come in vertically. Come in at 45 is considered vertical. What that would do is create a curtain of water so that the airflow won't get to the relief vent that's downstream. So all the fixtures downstream of this one trap arm is going to have that airlock because water would have been dumping from this trap arm, creating that curtain of air. So for that reason, this clarification came in, stating that you do need to come in horizontally at 2% grade. Okay, offset needs to be done afterwards.